Mr. Jayakumar, there are a couple of questions that trouble the investor community and, the citizen at large about the banking segment, not just public sector. Now, one of this is going after defaulters. Is it that the banking sector can do something about actually bringing some people to book?
Very true, we should. And I think there is a substantial coordination among banks now on this whole issue. But remember, a lot of things we have to do in working closely with the client. The legal system in this country is not exactly friendly to accomplish a lot of goals. So if we were to litigate on a number of items, we probably will set ourselves back. So if we had an extremely effective legal system, that would probably make a decision in 6 months' time. All that you say is true. But we work with a legal system that takes a lot of time. Even surfacey matters, routine matters, have got held up by court interventions. The district magistrates in many places have refused to cooperate. So, given that situation, we should have some realistic expectation of what can be done and what can't be done. At the end of the day, even if it is an SDR today, we have to have the consent of the borrower to do it. You can't do it unilaterally. So there is some limitation we have in this manner. But you're right. We should continue to focus and get money from them. And we have to be unambiguous. And one of the things we have not used well probably would be to enforce personal liability. Some of the things which have been difficult to do is to, wherever there's diversion, to take criminal actions. But a lot of it has also got to do with the legal system, the way it works.
Actually, some of the bankers were telling me that promoters are coming in demanding SDR. Aap mera equity le lo and, I want to be relieved. That is the kind of attitude some promoters have. Is it that, there aren't enough personal guarantees to encash, that they will sacrifice their equity and they can go scot-free? Is that the bulk of the promoters?
No, I don't. I really do not know much to comment on it. But from whatever I've seen, there have been few cases where one of the objectives of the SDR probably has to be to get out of personal liability. But I don't think bankers are not aware of it. So they do insist, they do keep that issue alive.
Do you think naming and shaming or publishing willful defaulters list will help bring promoters in line, or will that be counterproductive?
I would assume it should have an effect. It should have an effect, especially in their relationship with the various social circle. It should have some effect. But how much of a deterrent it is, I really am not able to keep a pulse on it. We have to try those alternatives as well. So I think when you're dealing with customers who are not paying, you have to keep a lot of options open as levers to address that problem.
Finally, a question on personnel. Would you want major changes in HR rules, compensation rules, to be able to bring in fresh blood?
Well, I think, do we have the ability in a legal sense to get people from outside? The answer to that is unequivocally yes. We also have subsidiaries where we can hire people and so on. So that issue is not a significant issue. But what is important is to reassure other employees that you're getting in new people to fill up specific skill sets that are not available within the system. The unions have told us the same thing, that we're not against anybody else coming in, but be careful and make sure conscientiously that you are getting people for skill sets that you don't easily have available, and then try to use the people to train others so that we develop a larger, broader set of people with skill sets. Now let's come to compensation. The compensation in some sense is a limiting factor. You could pay a lot more than we currently are paid or other colleagues of ours are paid, but it can't be outrageous. Even in theory you can. So why would those employees join? That's the next question. The answer is that you get a scale which you won't get elsewhere.
What we were given to understand is because you have the CVC inquiries, CAG inquiries, because you are over 51% government, people don't have the courage to write down, for instance, the value of a loan or take creative solutions. You don't see that as an inhibiting factor.
You see, the point is that when governments are involved anywhere in the world, whether it is here or the United States, there are an additional layer of regulations that apply to them. Conversely, the benefit for the bank from being owned by the government is that it has got a rating that is completely dealing with the independent rating of the bank. So, there are pluses and minuses on the larger scheme of things. Now, let's discuss the CVC element that is there. Personally, I think if the processes are followed and, all the details are available, probably those kind of risks are probably exaggerated.
Okay.
But finally, you have to have the guts to take decisions and say, this is what I believe in, this is why I'm doing it. But what I'm doing, for example, is recording those decisions in a very clear term. We are lending to the segment of customers. We do not know how they will behave. You may entirely write off the portfolio, and that is what it is. But the upside coming from that is for a small amount of credit loss, you will open up new segments that will substantially expand your balance sheet. We have to spell that out very clearly, so when a CVC or somebody else comes in and looks at it and says, hey, there has been a loss, uprightly the decision was made that way.
Yes.
So I think a lot of wordsmithing, proper documentation, all that we take for granted elsewhere probably needs to be built. And there will always be one or two cases where there may be some things that should not happen with the CVC or any other regulatory authority can happen. But I don't think it should deter all of us from doing that. I think if you ask me, a large number of people have not joined public sector bank, I would say part of it may be compensation related issues as well, which then and then the CVC and other things add to it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Jayakumar, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.